This week in games, Activision Blizzard settles its sexual harassment lawsuit. The Last of Us Online has been canceled. Death Stranding is getting a movie, and Epic Games has settled its lawsuit with the Google Play Store. This is the Two Penny Gamescast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 178. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
Hello, people. This is the Two Penny Gamescast with Connor and Tavin. Nice to meet you.
That's us. That's what we do. Connor, how's your week been, my friend?
It was nice. I got a Christmas tree. I celebrated a friend graduating, so that's always nice.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice week. I had to work, but you know, everyone's got it.
Work is work, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. I had a pretty solid week myself, man. I jumped into that God of War Ragnarok Valhalla DLC. I beat it. I rolled credits. There will be a breakout review from this upcoming episode of the Piggy Bank going out if all goes well on that front. I should be able to break it out from the Piggy Bank and upload that. So if you want my full impressions and really just full review of God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, make sure you check that out. Also on the channel is a fun little breakout video from our Shovel Knight review in which I show off my brand new amiibo, giving me a total count of 2 amiibo, my Solid Snake amiibo and my Shovel Knight amiibo. So make sure you go check that out. Give it a little view, a little like, and a share. But that's not why you're here, ladies and gentlemen. You're here for the Two Penny Gamescast. This is your weekly video game news podcast. We come to you each and every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@2pennygames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. Just look up Two Penny Gamescast on any podcast service that you like, and we will be there. We bring you each 2 topics, 2 pennies, if you will, and give you our 2 cents on them. And this week, we've got quite a variety of topics, and I'm excited to talk about each and every one of them. Connor, shall we go ahead and get started with topic number 1?
I am ready with the order that we have pre-established.
Excellent. Did I? Oh, I didn't pre-establish.
No, we did.
Starting with what we did.
Yeah.
I have Activision, Last of Us, Death Stranding, Google.
Ooh, close.
Yay.
Close.
There we go.
By the way, you never admit that we didn't do it properly unless you're making a joke.
Right.
And why you salvage it.
Right. Never, where's my professionalism at, Connor? Here we go. Connor, your first topic of the day, Activision Blizzard. Take it away.
Well, this is an article from PC Gamer, from Ted Litchfield. Activision Blizzard settles California's civil rights suit for $54 million, sets aside another $47 million for impacted employees. First reported by the New York Times, a major chapter in Activision Blizzard's reckoning over an alleged internal culture of misogyny and harassment has ended. The California Civil Rights Department, formerly the Department of Fair Employment and Housing, has settled with Activision Blizzard for $54 million, dropping its sexual harassment suit. In addition to the $54 million paid to the state, Activision Blizzard has set aside $47 million to handle accusations of gender discrimination in pay and promotions. According to the settlement, Gilbert Casellas, a former chairman of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, concluded, quote, there was no widespread harassment or recurring pattern or practice of gender harassment, end quote, following an investigation into Activision Blizzard. In July of 2021, the California Civil Rights Department filed its lawsuit against Activision Blizzard, alleging that the gaming giant had a frat boy culture and was a breeding ground for harassment and discrimination against women. In the settlement, signed by Activision Blizzard and the California Civil Rights Department, the CRD concedes that there is, quote, no systemic or widespread sexual harassment at the company. At 2021 Wall Street Journal report,
the rest is mostly just a breakdown of the stories that we covered along the way. This is a story that we covered pretty much close to the beginning of this podcast, and I do recommend everybody go give Ted a click and read up on all that, because he does do a great breakdown of all of that. But the big news is the $54 million plus an extra $47 million set aside. Connor, what are your thoughts on there?
It's kind of strange when you say that there's no widespread harassment, culture of harassment at this company, and then pay out not only $54 million to the state, but also $47 million for the employees. It's kind of weird because you would think that if you weren't found to be committing all of these harassments that you've been accused of, you wouldn't have to pay anything at all. So I don't know if there's some legal bullshit that occurred that's making them pay it, while at the same time being able to deny that any of that happened in the first place. The law is kind of written in a way where the layman can't really understand it. Me being the layman, especially when the law is concerned, like I said, who knows what happened there. But an interesting point later on in this article is that the former Blizzard chief compliance officer, Francis Townsend, called the allegations a, quote, a distorted and untrue picture of Activision Blizzard, including factually incorrect, old, and out-of-context stories, some more than a decade ago. And this is a guy who was touring the United States' infamous Abu Ghraib torture prison in 2004 while working for the Bush White House. He denied witnessing abuse of prisoners during the tour. So if he's saying that last bit, he's lying. I feel like he would definitely have known that this kind of stuff was going on, and the fact that they're having to pay out for it, and all of the voices that have come out talking about the crazy things that have occurred at Activision Blizzard over the years, makes me think that, at least there was justice found in a monetary sense, but it seems like there's not going to be a PR reckoning for Activision Blizzard to have an official court statement saying, hey, or an official statement from after the suit saying that they were guilty of the things they were being accused of, and now they're having to pay out for it. It just smells wrong. It's kind of not the most satisfying conclusion that you could hope for, considering all of the stuff that we had heard coming out from it. An employee killing themselves because apparently they were suffering from sexual harassment from someone who was higher than them. Them having a breastfeeding room where continuously men would walk in accidentally, which, it happened apparently many, many times, and breast milk being stolen, reportedly, from the fridge there, all the way to, just basic cookie cutter, if you can call it that, harassment and racial discrimination in the hiring process and how people were treated in the office space. It's not my favorite outcome. I'll just say that.
Yeah. I think I align mostly with you on this. It's I mean, it is tricky. Listen, they're gonna say everything and anything they can to and deny whatever they can. So their little mouthpiece about this, that, and the third about how their frat boy culture doesn't exist and everything's out of context or whatever. It's a lot of bullshit. Most of it we've covered in the past before on this podcast, and we've called it how it is. How it's just like, man, if it looks like and it smells like and seems like, then it probably is. And there's been a lot of excellent reporting done about Activision Blizzard over the last couple of years since this whole fiasco began. I think PR blowback has kind of already happened. Are people, being removed from seating or whatever? No, not really. And that kind of sucks. But, you sit here and you hope that, with the Xbox acquisition of Activision Blizzard, that, a lot of these problems will hopefully start trending in the positive direction here. It takes a long time to correct a ship this large, So ideally, under the new management, everything is going to be better. But we're going to have to wait and see on that. As for the monetary payout, $54 million is a drop in a bucket, in the bucket for Activision Blizzard. Even if you put in the extra 47, all right, so barely $100 million is a drop in the bucket for this company. And while I'm grateful that we're at least getting something out of it, I agree with you. It doesn't fully feel like enough, but I mean, what is enough? I don't know. I couldn't tell you. That's not really for either of us to decide, but it just doesn't seem right. When you bring in the size and scope of all of this, barely $100 million doesn't seem right to me either. But hey, man, at the end of the day, like, take your wins where you can. This is a win. It's not the largest one we would have liked. It feels like a compromise, but if this is a way in which the employees at Activision Blizzard can move on, the good ones at least, whatever the good ones it means, I'm not on the inside there. if this is a way that we can move on and we can start trending in the better direction, then hey, this is a nice enough footnote in the grander story of uh, this story. So let's hope for the best. Let's hope that things get fixed under new management, and going forward, we see a whole lot less, preferably no stories like this coming out of ABK in the future. Moving on. Topic number 2. Not so much of a nice one here, but important news nonetheless. We have an update on The Last of Us Online. This is from Naughty Dog's blog post themselves. An update on The Last of Us Online. This is from December 14th, 2023. We realize many of you have been anticipating news around the project that we've been calling The Last of Us Online. There's no easy way to say this. We've made the incredibly difficult decision to stop development on the game. We know this news will be tough for many, especially our dedicated The Last of Us factions community, who have been following our multiplayer ambitions ardently. We're equally crushed at the studio as we're looking forward to putting it in your hands. We wanted to share with you some background of how we came to this decision. The multiplayer team has been in pre-production with this game since we were working on The Last of Us Part 2, crafting an experience we felt was unique and had tremendous potential. As the multiplayer team iterated on their concept for The Last of Us Online during this time, their vision crystallized. The gameplay got more refined and satisfying, and we were enthusiastic about the direction in which we were headed. In ramping up to full production, the massive scope of our ambition became clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put all our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. So, we had two paths in front of us: become a solely live service games studio, or continue to focus on single-player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. We are immensely proud of everyone at the studio that touched this project. The learnings and investments in technology from this game will carry into how we develop our projects and will be invaluable in the direction we are headed as a studio. We have more than one ambitious brand new single-player game that we're working on here at Naughty Dog, and we cannot wait to share more about what comes next when we're ready. Until then, we're incredibly thankful to our community for your support throughout the years. So, to wrap all of that up, The Last of Us Online has been canceled, and there's more than one single-player Naughty Dog game in development at the moment. I don't know how much of this is actual news, but getting the official statement is appreciated. It's not a game that is quietly fading away and we're never going to hear about again. I don't know, take your pick of any of the projects that just kind of faded away into the background and never came back. So the way they present this is an either or thing here. First of all, it's unfortunate that the game has to be canceled. That sucks. You know, clearly it's like, oh man, we didn't find the exact loop that we were looking for. It would just take too much time and too many resources to develop it, and we would sort of put a dark cloud over the name of Naughty Dog, which we do not currently have in reality. As far as anybody is concerned, Naughty Dog has been, pitching a perfect game since the PlayStation 3. And I'm of two minds of this. One is, okay, if what they are saying is true and it was an either or, either they dedicate full on into Last of Us Online or they cancel it and move on. This is the path I would rather them take. I would rather them cancel the game and move on to develop the next single player game. You would assume that's either The Last of Us 3 or maybe a new IP or something like that. Or maybe Uncharted, but I feel like we've moved past Uncharted with Naughty Dog, and if Uncharted were to come back, probably not under them. But if this is true, and this is what they've chosen to do, I think this is the right choice. It doesn't make sense to me to force a single player studio to become a live service studio only. Naughty Dog has had really great iterations of multiplayer in the past, so I'm sure the game was fun, but would it have lasted, 6 months, a year, 10 years? Doubtful. But maybe it could have been fun for a couple of weeks. Would have been a nice little multiplayer, something to whet our appetites and to give some type of multiplayer serving on the PlayStation 5 from a first party studio. That's where my other side of the argument comes in. Is this an either or? Could you guys not just, like, I don't know, dedicate the next year to this game full blast and get it out the door? Maybe either sell it or make it an update to the remaster that's coming out in January, and just hold the release of the remaster until this is done, and just have it kind of work that way. That way, like, it would make sense to charge full price for the remaster under those circumstances, and then you could still recoup some of those losses that we've got on this. And just come with the expectation of, like, hey, we're no longer doing a live service. We do not have the scope for it. We don't have the team for it. We do have the team for a really kick-ass multiplayer mode, which is honestly all we ever really wanted from The Last of Us, is an updated version of Factions, is something with, you know, a little smoother gameplay, a little more fleshed out on the systems side of things, you know, progression and all that, just something to kind of grind towards. And I've seen sort of a discussion online on Twitter and so forth of sort of a hearkening to the days where we would get great single player games with a multiplayer mode attached to them. Now, granted, most of those multiplayer modes were just kind of tacked on and not very good, but they were kind of fun and interesting and let you live in the world of your favorite games for a little bit longer. You know, you think of The Last of Us Factions, you think of what Uncharted was doing with multiplayer back in the day, you think of Tomb Raider had a multiplayer mode. Nobody played it, but, you know, it had one and you could play a little bit more, and so on and so forth, a bunch of different versions like that. And you just have to sit back and wonder, it's like, is canceling it outright the right move? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I haven't seen the product that they're working on and that they're talking about. Maybe it really is just not coming together, and instead of having this blemish on their record right now, they would rather, hey, scrap it, fuck it. We'll be quiet for the next couple of years and come back with some heat, which I'm sure they've got something great cooking in the oven. They usually do. You know, it's Naughty Dog. So, Connor, where are you at with this?
Well, I'm in agreement that they pretty much made the right decision if we're reading it on a plain-faced. You know, I do raise up questions of whether it was an either-or situation. You made a good argument there, even before we recorded this episode. The big thing that I'm confused about is how you wouldn't realize until now that you would have to put a bunch of work into servicing a live service game. I mean, you're not treading new ground here. You can point, you know, pretty much anywhere and, you know, land on some live service game that company dedicates pretty much all its time to doing. One of the big ones being Fortnite. I believe PUBG, still going on, is done by the same company that hasn't done anything else. Respawn doing Apex Legends. You know, they put a lot of their effort in recent years to just doing that. It kind of is weird that, especially with a studio that I'm assuming is probably smaller, since they only put out like one game every so couple of years.
Naughty Dog's massive. Naughty Dog is like 400 people.
It is 400 people, yeah. So it's that part's a little weird, but I can understand once you get up to a certain point, realizing, okay, we're gonna have to, you know, keep this game alive, do a lot of stuff, and we don't know if exactly we're down to doing that. So I can give them a pass there. I think this is really just the byproduct that we see, one of the byproducts of having games nowadays that take, what's the average year to make one now? 4 years, 6 years, 5? Yeah. I remember people saying it was going to go up to 6 years eventually. It's only going to keep growing if the trend follows as it is. And so at the rate that's going on, it's, you know, you really do have to be very careful about the games that you put out, because one game succeeding or failing can make or break your entire company. More likely, it could lead to tons of layoffs, as we've seen on this year alone, when games have been doing good. So it's, for all of the criticisms we could probably heap on them for canceling it and, you know, not realizing that it, you know, is just now should be canceled after years of production, but it's way better than the alternative of what would happen if it came out in a negative state. So, you know, I was interested in playing it. I was a big fan of the original Last of Us multiplayer. It was interesting in the way that it played and in the way that the systems worked, particularly bringing back supplies that you fetch while you're out in the world to feed your community. So I'm really interested to see what kind of systems would have been in place for a part 2 multiplayer, but Whatever. This is the nature of games. We talk about cancellations all the time, layoffs all the time, and as far as bad news goes, this isn't really the worst thing you can get. So,
I mean, it
oh
isn't
well.
in the assumption that people will not be laid off from this. Let's hope people
Yes.
aren't. I mean, some people already have, like some QA workers have already been laid off, but I mean, that's to be expected when you're ramping up for a game launch to happen, and then the game launch doesn't happen. So yeah, you got to be like, all right, sorry, bro, like we got to let you go. I just looked it up. According to like Zippia.com, I don't know what that website is. 497 people work at Naughty Dog. So quite a sizable studio, quite like one of the bigger studios under PlayStation. And yeah, I mean, it's really just confusing to me why they went this angle, why they went this direction, especially because we have such great examples of other updates from first party PlayStation studios. You look at most recently God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, a very sizable DLC, 6 to 10 hours in length, depending on just how fast you get through it. It being a roguelite and it being fully fleshed out with fully motion captured cutscenes and full-time production value and so forth. It's basically Ragnarok, 1.5 essentially. And that's a free update that they just threw out there and said, hey, here you go. Here's for the fans. Another example from a game that came out the same year as The Last of Us Part 2, also under PlayStation Studios, Ghost of Tsushima. Putting out Ghost of Tsushima Legends and their director's cut after that. Legends was such a fantastic idea, and it was exactly what it needed to be. A fun little test bed for what I assume will be expanded on in Ghost 2, whenever we get that. That, was just a fun multiplayer outing. Me and Connor, we played it for 2-3 weeks, and then we were like, we're having a great time. This is really solid, really well built. Systems work, and then we put it down. And I don't see why this needed to be anything more than that. I understand, like, for the almighty dollar, they're looking at all this money that everybody else is making via Destiny and Fortnite, etc., etc. But did The Last of Us need that? I don't know if it did, man. Your game made fucking a bajillion dollars. Your show, broke all kinds of records and all this. Like, I understand when they started production on this, they didn't know it was going to make all that, but you probably had a pretty good sense that Last of Us Part 2 was going to be a pretty successful video game. And so now you just have to sit back and look at this and go, okay, well, what were your options really? Like, what did you really have here? And granted, I could be wrong. They really could have the bones of a really, really great, fully fleshed out AAA multiplayer video game here. And it could be worth $70 on its own, potentially. It just would not be worth carrying on all of the updates and support that would be required for it. And to my question is, then why are we just outright canceling it? Just finish it up, polish it up, and send it out with the message of, hey, this has an end date. Maybe we'll do an expansion or two, but we will not be committed to this for the rest of our lives. That's fine. Outriders did it. We're getting an Outriders 2. And that's a much smaller studio with much smaller ambitions. Why did this need to end like this? I don't know. Oh, look at that. I'm wearing my fucking Fireflies t-shirt. I didn't even
Nerd.
notice.
Simp. Shill. All bad words.
All the other bad words. I don't know, man. I was really interested in this, and it's disappointing, especially, both Connor, you and I are both Factions fans. It's disappointing to see, but I mean, I guess the best case scenario here is just to take them at their word and just accept that, hey, yeah, all right, I would rather a new single player game from them than this.
I'll quickly walk back one of the things I said earlier, kind of, because at first, when you told me how big of a studio they actually are, I was like, okay, understandable. They thought they could handle the workload, but I forgot that they have 2 games in the oven right now, and them being Naughty Dog and having the level of detail. This is assuming both those games would have that. I could see them coming out of left field and making a more, not bare bones game, but a less technically challenging game to make, in addition to their usual single player narrative, big mocap, expensive looking game.
Yeah.
But with 2 games, if we're taking them at their usual system, which is where they do spend a lot of time making their game very technical, and they probably is correct to assume that The Last of Us multiplayer was doing the same exact thing, seeing as how the framework is Last of Us 2. It kind of makes it even more weirder that they didn't realize that with 3 big AAA high definition games that they were going to be able to put all of them out. So once again, we're talking at our ass. We didn't see anything at all from this game.
Yeah.
That was one of the main criticisms we had before we got the news it was canceled. So who knows what the level of production that this game had reached before it was canceled. But
Yeah.
disappointing.
It really is, but best we can do is I guess just look forward to the future, man. It's gonna be a long time before we get another Naughty Dog game, isn't it?
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do? What do you think these two games are? Well, assuming they're just two games.
I just said, right? Well, Last of Us Part 3. I feel like they've already been open to saying that they want to go back to it, even though it did have a capstone of this could be the final game with Last of Us Part 2. There's always room. And seeing as how it makes the money.
So.
Yeah, right? So it makes sense they would do that. The other one, once again, going back to what I said about whatever second game they would be making that couldn't be as technically demanding as Last of Us, Jak and Daxter, huh? Just a little cartoony, wacky game.
Absolutely.
No, I remember them saying something at one point that they weren't going back to that.
I think they've retired that. I think barely any of that staff is from those days. Like, I'm sure there's still some stragglers, some long-term veterans and so forth, which are great. But like at this rate, if you worked on Uncharted, you're a veteran. Like,
yeah. Right.
And Neil, I believe. I forget when Neil joined the team because it's been documented in a bunch of documentaries and stuff. I think he joined the team in the Jak and Daxter days, and but didn't rise to prominence until like Uncharted 2. Is when he became sort of a bigger player at Naughty Dog and is now obviously the biggest of them.
Yeah.
So no, yeah, I mean I agree with you in that it's probably Last of Us Part 3. Would I be excited for that? I don't know. Hopefully.
You would be. Shut up.
Me personally, I would be interested. There are like some narrative threads that I could see them going down. I want an Ellie redemption story, like how Joel gets a redemption story in the first game. With the exception of his final choice, I want Ellie to make a good choice at the end of it because she learns from the mistakes and so forth. Anyways, I think that would be really, really cool. As for their other thing, I want brand new. I want something new from Naughty Dog. I think we're a little tired of getting the same stuff again and again and again. Specifically, like Uncharted, specifically Last of Us. Like I'm just tired of it, man. I don't need any more of these universes. You fed me, and I'm full on both of them. At least in terms of what Naughty Dog can provide for them. And the only reason I would want a part 3 to Last of Us is not for more Last of Us, just to kind of put a final package up the series. This is Ellie's entire tale. Here you go. Type experience and then just move on from there. Like I really don't think The Last of Us is a franchise that we need 10 iterations of. But it is a franchise that I think a nice trilogy would be cool. But from there, yeah, man, I'd like to see Naughty Dog grow and try something new and maybe, explore into different genres. Do every one of your games need to be action adventure games? I don't know. Do they? It was impressive when you went from Uncharted to... Well, it's been impressive every time they've launched a new IP. From Crash Bandicoot to Jak and Daxter to Uncharted. Like, going from Jak and Daxter to Uncharted was crazy. Going from Uncharted to Last of Us was crazy. I'd like to see what else they've got up their sleeves. Sci-fi RPG. I don't know. Do something cool, something new, something interesting. I think it's clear to me with the progression of Naughty Dog's game design. I think it's clear to me that they're looking to expand into something new. But will we ever get that? Who knows?
I have one more question. For you, Tavin, since we're on this topic. You said that they would do a third game for Ellie's redemption arc. What redemption would she need? I don't think she did anything that requires a redemption in part 2 that wasn't covered there. I
mean, well, we'd be getting into spoilers for part 2 here. And I don't have all the full details in there, but like we don't leave her on a good note. Like
no.
She's not a good person. She's not a good person by the end of that game. Like she made a lot of really bad choices and she understands she made bad choices. But she has to live with that. I'd like to see her sort of pave some way, and there's narrative threads that you can pull on to get there, to pave the way to her coming back coming full circle to being a better person. Like,
or she'll die.
That's not a character I want to see die. But I could see very easily we jump 14 years in the future. She's a little like
Grizzle.
grizzled, like a little like just kind of like bitter. 14 years, and then I don't know, maybe a young JJ, the baby at the end of the second game, is knocking on her door and says, "Hey, my mom's in trouble. I need your help." Something like that, and then we go on an adventure to go save Dina or something, and then Abby gets wrapped up along the way or something. I'm not interested in a continuation of an Abby and Lev story as the main plot of the game, but I am interested to see if those two could intersect again and find some better ground to stand on between the two of them. I don't want them to be buddy, but I want them to kind of understand each other a little bit better. Even though I do think they understood each other, like they understood each other's hate by the end of the second game, but like I'd like them to understand like each other as people better, I guess.
But they only come up in scenes where they're trying to kill each other, or one of them is trying to kill the other. So
yeah,
makes sense.
Like sort of a what I guess spoilers for Ragnarok, for God of War Ragnarok, where Freya and Kratos end up somewhere in there. Like maybe not that far, because Freya and Kratos get kind of buddy by the end of that game, but somewhere in the middle there, I think is a good place for us to land between the Abby and Ellie situation, and then let's expand on Ellie even more and so forth. Like those are events that like will follow her for the rest of her life, and Ashley Johnson's not getting any younger, so like let's let her play a fucking fully grown woman at some point. I mean, granted, Ellie's 19 in part 2, but still, you know what I'm saying. You get it. You get where I'm going here. Moving on to topic number 3, my second penny of the day. Oh wait, no, is this you? No, this is me. This is me.
This is me.
Death Stranding live action movie in the works from A24 and Hideo Kojima. This is a Variety report from Zach Sharf. Death Stranding, the wildly popular 2019 action video game from creator Hideo Kojima, is coming to the big screen. A24 is teaming with Kojima Productions to develop a live-action film adaptation of the title, which has sold over 5 million copies and has a reputation as one of the best video games of the 21st century. Does it, Variety? Does it have that reputation? Anyways, the announcement of a Death Stranding live-action movie comes just ahead of Kojima Productions' 8th anniversary on December 16th. Can you believe Kojima Productions 8 years old, Connor?
In one game.
In one game. That shows you how long these motherfuckers take to make, right? We got a DS2 around the corner and an OD who knows when. You know what I'm saying? A synopsis from the two companies reads, quote, "The film promises to delve into the mysteries surrounding the apocalyptic event called the Death Stranding, which blurred the lines between life and death and brought forth nightmarish creatures into a world on the brink of collapse. A24 was born into this world about 10 years ago. Their presence is singular within the industry. They are like no other," Kojima said in a statement. Quote, "The films they are delivering to the world are high in quality and very innovative. I have been attracted to their creations, and they have even inspired my own work. Their innovative approach to storytelling aligns with what Kojima Productions has been doing for the last 8 years. Now, we are making a Death Stranding movie together." Excuse me, Lord of Life. Sorry, I had to get that out.
Right, though. Right.
Quote, "There are a lot of game adaptation films out there, but what we are creating is not just a direct translation of the game," the video game creator added. Quote, "The intention is that our audience will not only be fans of the games, but our film will be for anyone who loves cinema. We are creating a Death Stranding universe that has never been seen before, achievable only through the medium of film. It will be born." The game Death Stranding is set in the United States after a cataclysmic event unleashes destructive creatures into the planet. Players take control of a courier named Sam Porter Bridges, played by Norman Reedus, who is tasked with bringing resources to colonies across the country and connecting them through a wireless network. Okay. So Kojima's getting his first full-on movie. This one, I believe, is actually happening, unlike this Metal Gear Solid movie that has been in the works for fucking 2 decades. Who knows how long. This is cool. This is interesting. If A24 as a production company was going to make a Hideo Kojima video game adaptation, I would want it to be Death Stranding. it's just unfortunate that we are getting a Death Stranding movie before a Metal Gear Solid movie. That's unfortunate. I really do wish we were getting a Metal Gear Solid movie first. It doesn't look like it's happening, or it's in limbo right now. Who knows? Oscar Isaac's been tied to the role for like 3 years, so who knows if it's even fucking happening at this point. But this one is happening. Ambitious, I guess you could say. Interesting for sure. I don't know if I would want a retelling of Sam Bridges' story in that universe. I think I'd rather them something new just in the world of Death Stranding. I think would make more sense to me, at least. But you never know with these things. Maybe they are just going to go for an adaptation or something. But Kojima's quote kind of hints at them just going, "Hey, we're thinking a little bigger than just Sam Porter Bridges over here." Which that's interesting and that's exciting because I really like Death Stranding. I like it a lot. Borderline love it, but I'm not going there. I'm not going there. But I can't deny the least interesting part about Death Stranding to me was the story. It was just kind of droning on and on and on, and it was just full blown Kojima in the worst ways. But the world was fascinating. The gameplay loop was interesting. The vibe, the emotional tone of the world, the colors of the world were really, really, really cool. It's a depressing world. It's a world you don't want to live in. It's uncomfortable, and it just so happened to lead to a good premise for a third person action game in which you deliver packages. And I mean, a la The Road, I guess you could say. You could see a movie sort of taking this premise of just a guy delivering packages from, shelter in place civilization to shelter in place civilization, and all of that working out kind of in an interesting way. And A24 I think is the right production studio for it. They get weird, man. They like getting weird. And Kojima is brand is weird. We've got a guy with a baby strapped to his chest and a weird fucking flashlight on his shoulder, man. That's weird. And then like squid monsters come and attack him as he tries to deliver packages. He's a FedEx guy fighting off, zombies. Not zombies, but like monsters or whatever. And that's an interesting premise. I'd like to see what that would be like in a movie. I just hope that somebody with I would hope a better writer comes on board and sort of helps massage this project into creation.
Yeah, A24, they have an amazing track record of films. They've probably been one of the best studios in recent years with things like The Lighthouse. You got things like Hereditary. They recently made one called Dream Scenario with Nicolas Cage that I've heard is amazing. They are
they
one
did
of those
Everything Everywhere, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah,
they did do that.
Second best movie ever made.
Sure. That's a thing you could say. But overall, they are, as you said, one of the best ones to go and make this kind of movie out of all the Kojima production titles they can draw from. The one, Death Stranding. It's kind of makes sense because Kojima loves movies. Anybody that follows his Twitter account can easily see that. He's even used as a metric to decide whether a movie is good or not based off how many words he uses to talk about the movie that he's just seen. Also, I would be super surprised if they continued the story that's been established by Death Stranding or anything connected to that, directly connected to that, because he's said that it's a Death Stranding universe. And when you say universe, you're kind of implying more than just what the game is giving you. If they don't do that, it is just going to be kind of a pathetic waste to have this, what I'm assuming as someone who hasn't played the games, deep world that's very intricate and confusing and convoluted that can really use it. It's kind of the setting that sounds like could be used to draw a lot of stories, and to just be so, limited to one guy and all of the people connected to him would be a waste, especially for the first film that Hideo Kojima is going to be a part of, which I feel like if this does good, we're going to see even more from A24/Kojima production films. Because it's already got its leg off the ground with Kojima's name, with Death Stranding's name, and A24 being the trailblazer that they are, that when this movie inevitably comes out, it's going to be a major, major hit. I really, really hope that it is kind of following the trend of current video game movies where it's actually being good for once. Because once again, we are going like this is something that's way more easy to adapt into a film than some other games that come out. But at the end of the day, it is a video game being adapted to a film, and it is subject to the issues that all other ones have come up on. Particularly those Resident Evil movies. Don't you love those, Tavin? Don't you love those?
Man, nothing but bangers, man. Nothing but bangers. Even that last one that they put out was such a banger, man. Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, will this movie be good? I don't know. I don't think so. It'll be interesting. It'll be like mind-boggling for sure. And I think a bunch of nerdy film buffs are going to be like, oh, man, this is crazy. And then, everyone else is going to be like, yeah, that movie was weird, but I liked it or whatever. All I want as a fan of Kojima is just a full, like, Kojima vision, but, like, reined in the ways that some of those early Metal Gear games were reined in. Like, as he got more and more, just freedom to do whatever the hell he wanted. And I think he clearly has a lot. I feel like he has a lot of yes men in his corner who just kind of give him what he wants, which, to be fair, he's earned that, but it's led to, some titles from him not being of my favorite, and so that's why, like, as much as I really like Kojima, man, he's fucking exposition heavy as a bitch, right? Like, he talks a lot in his scripts, and it's like, let's get like a really, really talented writer here who's down to get weird with Kojima, but like just knows how to deliver these themes and these messages and these characters in a more approachable way. I think that is the best formula for success here. Full Kojima vision, but just, tailored to an accessible way.
I think a lot of that has to do with the role that Kojima is going to play in the creation of the film. Because I'd be surprised if he doesn't be hands-on in some areas. And I think you'd see the biggest hit be taken from the writing, particularly the writing of the script. I think he's able to do really good concepts. I think all we have to do is look towards those the original Death Stranding reveal trailer that had people bringing up like. What science were they going for? Like quantum physics or something like that? It was
absolutely fucking insane.
It was.
It was just like not even worth. It wasn't even worth everybody's time. Everybody was putting so much time to like dissecting those trailers, and I was sitting here. I was like, guys, I don't know, man. It's fucking Kojima. Like they're like, oh man, this could be a stealth action event. I'm like, nah, it's a game where you where you deliver packages. It's just what it is. Like you just reconnect the world. That's it.
Yeah. So Kojima, just please bring your vision. Just maybe leave your the writing itself to the people that work on films all the time.
It's like we want the Kojima outline, but the hard details given by somebody else. I mean, still with Kojima oversight, but just the guy who's actually putting pen to paper and turning that in. Like we can let somebody else do that, or else this movie's gonna be 5 fucking hours long. Moving on to our final topic of the day. Connor, your second penny. Am I doing this right? Yeah, that's good enough. Here we go. Take it away, my friend.
Well, we have an article from The Verge here, particularly from Sean Hollister. Epic win. That's a good one. I'll give him that. Yeah. A jury decides Google has a legal monopoly in App Store fight. 3 years after Fortnite maker Epic Games sued Apple and Google for allegedly running illegal App Store monopolies, Epic has a win. The jury in Epic v. Google has just delivered its verdict, and it found that Google turned its Google Play App Store and Google Play billing service into an illegal monopoly. After just a few hours of deliberation, the jury unanimously answered yes to every question put before them. That Google has a monopoly power in the Android app distribution markets and an in-app billing service markets, that Google did anti-competitive things in those markets, and that Epic was injured by that behavior. They decided Google has an illegal tie between its Google Play App Store and its Google Play billing payment services too, and that its distribution agreement, Project Hug, deals with game developers and deals with OEMs were all anti-competitive. Google Affairs and Public Policy VP Wilson White said the company plans to appeal the verdict and that, quote, the trial made clear that we compete fiercely with Apple and its App Store, as well as app stores on Android devices and gaming consoles, end quote. You can read the full statement further down below. In a post on its company blog, Epic Games said, quote, today's verdict is a win for all app developers and consumers around the world. It proves that Google's App Store practices are illegal and they abuse their monopoly to extract exorbitant fees, stifle competition, and reduce innovation. End quote. We have a big post-trial interview with Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney here. I shouldn't have read that. It's historic, particularly because Epic mostly lost its fight against Apple 2 years ago when Judge Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers decided that fight had nothing to do with apps. But Epic v. Google turned out to be a very different case. It hinged on secret revenue-sharing deals between Google, smartphone makers, and big game developers, ones that Google execs internally believed were designed to keep rival app stores down. It showed that Google was running scared of Epic specifically. And it was all decided by a jury, unlike the Apple ruling. Mind you, we don't know what Epic has won quite yet. That's up to Judge James Donato, who will decide what the appropriate remedies might be. Epic never sued for monetary damages. It wants the court to tell Google that every app developer has total freedom to introduce its own app stores and its own billing systems on Android. And we don't yet know how or even whether the judge might grant those wishes. Both parties will meet with Judge Donato in the second week of January to discuss potential remedies. Judge Donato has already stated that he will not grant Epic's additional request for an anti-circumvention position, quote, just to be sure Google can't reintroduce the same problems through some alternative creative solution, end quote, as Epic lead attorney Gary Bornstein put in on November 28th. Quote, we don't do break the law injunctions. If you have a problem, you can come back, Donato said. He also said he did not intend to decide what percentage fee Google should charge for its products. Although Epic didn't sue for damages, Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney suggested Epic stood to make hundreds of millions or even billions of dollars if it doesn't have to pay Google's fee.
It's a heady thing. It's a lot's happening. And granted, this is a story that like we were covering in the early days. I think episode 2 or maybe 1 was about Epic v Apple. And then the Google suit followed shortly behind that. So this is one that's been in the fight for a minute. Obviously, the Apple one didn't work out the way Epic wanted to. And overall, I think this is a huge win. This is great. This is awesome because this really like is opening the doors for a lot of different smaller dev teams and a lot of different smaller publishers who, maybe can't afford to put out one big massive game all the time. They got to put out some smaller games, every 2 years or whatever. And they need to, scrape by with whatever they can get off of it, or a self-publishing title that, is like, man, like a third of everything we do goes to Google, and that's fucking crazy. How this affects the industry at large, obviously we'll have to wait and see. And obviously I don't know all the ins and outs that are happening here because, I'm just some schmuck on the internet. But this is a story that, like, if you're not following super closely, you should start following closely because this will hopefully be the beginning domino that sets off a bunch of chain reactions into hopefully a better marketplace for the mobile market and so forth. So very, very interested to see what's happening here and how we progress going forward from here. And also interested to see how Apple will respond to this because even though they kind of got away with what their suit was about, and clearly they can continue business as normal. This is too big for their biggest competitor to be doing this and for them not to react in any sort of way on it. Obviously, like if the cuts change, people are going to stop putting their apps on the Apple Store, and they're going to just keep putting it on the Google Play Store if they can make more money over there. So now Apple has to compete with that, which is interesting.
I really don't think this is going to lead anywhere because nothing's set in stone for exactly what Epic is going to get from this. So yeah, I should mention they would get something. I just don't think it's going to be as significant as maybe they're hoping for. I am a guy who has no experience directly. Well, actually, no professional experience with the law in any way, shape, or form. So I got no goddamn clue when it comes to this kind of stuff.
See,
But
the least interesting outcome to this to me is Epic no longer has to pay fees for like Fortnite on the Google Play Store or something like in terms of the microtransactions, and that's it. If that's all this gives us, that's kind of lame. Now, is that all Epic is looking for themselves as an individual company? Yes, but I'm more curious as to how the little guy can benefit off of this as well.
and that's been the kind of the branding effort from Epic ever since the beginning. They were like, this isn't for us. This is for everyone.
They're like, guys,
Bullshit.
we're okay. We're okay.
Yeah.
We laid off 400 people this year, but we're okay.
Yeah, you guys though, we're doing it for you.
Yeah.
I don't really think that's true at all, but it really has become the more important part of this story because as we kind of always side with on the show, it's the little guy, the smaller developers. I could give less about what Epic themselves are going to do because, like you said, they just laid off a bunch of employees while running Fortnite, one of the biggest games in the world. So, they can go kick rocks, same as Google, for all I care. It's more of an interesting an interesting case study of two titans going at it, possibly in a substantial way, possibly in a completely substantial. What's the opposite of substantial? I know it. I'm blanking.
Right?
Unsubstantial. Fuck it. Who cares?
Man,
Insubstantial. Either way, I want to see whose dick is going to be bigger by the end of this.
Well, anyway, but I mean, I guess like a little bit of props to Epic here. They're big guys on the block, man. They don't have to do this. But they're the guys who can get it done. So, and they, kind of got it done, like halfway. So, props to them for at least, saying that they're fighting the good fight. They could just be like the Democrats in Congress where they say one thing and then do another. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for your weekly news update. This has been the Two Penny Gamescast. Remember, you can catch us every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@2pennygames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. Make sure to write down in the comments below down there topics you would have liked to hear us discuss and talk about, and give your 2 cents on all the stories we covered here today. Make sure you go ahead and go check out the God of War Ragnarok Valhalla review breakout, hopefully, that we do on the Piggy Bank. And check out this next upcoming episode of the Piggy Bank. It's going to be a very interesting one. We're going to talk about games. It's, we're at the end of the year, Connor. Time to start looking back. It's starting to get retrospective, starting to get a little nostalgic for the things that came out 6 months ago. And also, check out the new video where I talk about my 2 amiibo. My only 2 amiibo that I have. It's just the 2 of them.
God, you won't shut up about that.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and listening. Until next time, have a great time. And Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Stay healthy.
Hey guys, if you're listening to this at the end of the podcast, I said that there was going to be a quote-unquote review for God of War Ragnarok Valhalla off of the Piggy Bank, and I was going to break that out and make it its own review on the channel. Yeah, we just finished recording the Piggy Bank, and we didn't get around to it. So, which is surprising because we didn't talk about anything important on the Piggy Bank at all. We just didn't get around to it. So basically, my quick little 30-second review is you should go play it. It's excellent. It's really, really good. It deepens the story of the original game. And it shows an immense amount of respect for both eras of God of War, being the original games and the newer games. And I think it fully encapsulates everything that's great about the entire franchise. If you don't have it on your radar, you absolutely should. If you're discounting it because it is this, that, and the third, whatever, you should definitely give it a shot. Jump in. It's a pretty solid roguelite. And if it was just a few hours longer and maybe if it had it's only got 2 real stages in it. If it had a third stage and was a few hours longer, I'd probably put it on my top 10 of the year. But as of right now, it is just one of the best DLCs that I've ever played in my life. And yeah, you should absolutely go play it.